Frost DKs get more updates to dual wielding while Unholy DKs lose their Unholy Frenzy? What? Havoc Demon Hunters gain a massive boost to Fell Barrage and some changes to talents. And did you know that getting to level 60 in Shadowlands will take a lot longer? This, plus the changes to affixes and Mythic Plus and a whole lot more in On Cooldown. The weekly WoW news shows that still it plays WoW,
Hello and welcome to Marcelian&Online. We do class guides and a WoW news show on a weekly basis. And if you're into that, hit that subscribe button and maybe throw a comment,
because that will help us massively. And you know, it will keep you updated and we can engage in some conversation. And now, on with the show!
Oh my, oh my, oh my. We have Death Knight changes, ladies and gentlemen. If you have been playing Frost for a while, you might have missed two-handed playstyles and those big obliterates. Wait, I know what you're thinking, but Blizz already made Frost able to wield two-handers again in Shadowlands, and you are right, except you are wrong a bit. Just wielding two-handers is not enough, so Might of the Frozen Wastes returns as a passive. When dual wielding, Obliterates and Frost Strikes hit with your second weapon as well, and when using a two-hander, Obliterate has 25% more damage, and you have a higher chance to proc a killing machine. On paper, this is supposed to make the two-handers competitive with dual wielding, and it is, a bit. Runic Attenuation, the other major problem when switching weapon styles, has also been adjusted to perform with two-handers as well. These are the first real iterations of two-hander Frost coming back. Right now, the playstyles are a bit similar, although stuff like dual wielding working better with Sindragosa is still a thing, while two-handers can make for a better obliteration build. The two playstyles, for all intent and purposes, are similar in feel and performance at this point, and that's what Blizzard probably was going for. Now you should be able to choose between whichever you want, because at the end of the day, this was made possible by the devs for the players. The fundamentals of Frost still work better with dual wielding from a design perspective, and all of these changes are supposed to bridge the gap between the two styles. Right now, that seems to be true, but not sure for the future. Things can scale differently. Dual wielding still has an extra rune force to play with, and with a two-hander in AoE, Obliterates does more damage on one target than the 5 targets capped Frost Scythe does on said 5 targets. So a few inconsistency left. Outside of this, Frost hasn't really gained anything. No proper talent balances, no new playstyles, nothing even close to what Shadow and Shamans have been getting. And that's the good news. Now we move to Unholy. The inhumanity! Unholy Frenzy is gone. An iconic spell dating back to Warcraft 3 has been changed into Unholy Strike. Whew. Got out of my system. Now this is a cooldown still, but it hits your enemy, puts 4 festering wounds on it, and increases your haste by 15% for 12 seconds. The change was probably meant to reduce the setup required to start your pool as Unholy, which is fair. The decision is a roundabout way of fixing an issue they created by installing the GCD system, and the solution was to nerf the ability but put more of its power at the start. Instead of at least 4 attacks, aka 4 festering wounds baseline with the old version and 20% haste, we have 15% and being free, making it into kind of a shithole. And only 4 festering wounds. It doesn't apply festering wound with each auto attack anymore, so fewer wounds altogether. Appreciate the intent the devs had, but nerfing it isn't something that the spec needed. Unholy Frenzy never made the spec be number 1 in an overwhelming fashion, not even number 1 period. Why not buff the other two if the purpose of the nerf was to make the talent row competitive? And to supposedly compensate the upfront cost of it, Army of the Dead requires 1 root instead of 3, since Unholy Strike costs 2 runes and 20 runic power. Ugh. Not to mention, it's a melee hit, so you cannot activate it without a target in melee range. Not a big loss, but a felt one if you played Unholy for any reasonable amount of time. This whole thing felt like the attempt to provide us with an underwhelming solution to a problem created by yet another solution they came up with for another problem that was fabricated, which, so far, nobody playing the spec for a long time or at a high level has asked to be fixed and or likes the direction the devs decided to take the spec in. Again, it seems the devs don't really play Unholy DK outside analyzing logs and performance and things like that. That, with the outbreak remaining icky, just underlines it even more.
While you might think the Frost and Unholy Death Knight changes aren't that great, well, let me tell you about Havoc Demon Hunter. Our last Havoc beta overview video did point out that Havoc is a bit gimped and surely everybody saw the nerfs. But this time around, the changes and the new talents, seem to, at least at a surface level, compensate for that. First off, we get a Havoc favorite back, and that is the old Fury of the Illidari ability from the Legion artifact weapon. Well, now it's called Glave Tempest, and it will replace Fel Barrage, but it works and looks exactly like Fury of the Illidari, with your Shadowlands 5 target cap added to it, and a similarly 20-second cooldown which currently does not appear on the tooltip. Being on the level 30 bro, it will have to compete with Trail of Ruin, and at this point, with the nerf to the dodge chance on Blade Dance, Glave Tempest might actually be picked for 2+ target scenarios, as the damage is great and it can easily outshine the single target damage done from Trail of Ruin too, but then again, there is still a lot of tuning to be done, so this is all speculation based on the numbers that are showing in the latest beta client. An even bigger change is the removal of Nemesis from the last talent row, which, let's be fair, you never used it, and basically nobody used it, at least in BFA. Replacing it is the brand new buffed up Fel Barrage, which, let me tell you, it does crazy damage, and pairing this up with Glaive Tempest, I-Beam, and Blade Dance can lead to some ridiculous AoE damage. It will be interesting to see what you are going to pick from this last talent row, taking note of the demonic nerf and impending return of the momentum build, which some demon hunters absolutely love and some of them absolutely hate. But make no mistake, Fel Barrage is absolutely bonkers and can definitely work in single target too. I mean, just look at that. Look at it. That's not normal. Or is it? One other great addition to Havoc is Furious Gaze. You know, the Azerite trait that gave you haste after finishing an IB. Well, that is becoming a baseline passive, and it will provide you with 10% extra haste after you're done with your beam. And I gotta say, it feels pretty good. I mean, especially now with these character templates having like 5 to 6% haste. Furious Gaze bumps your haste to 16% in this case, and imagine how this will be multiplied by all your haste sources moving down the expansion. It's going to be really interesting to see this in the pre-patch, how still having your Furious Gaze traits and the baseline will work, and what amounts of haste will you get up to. But then again, that will only last for a short while. And overall, the changes to Havoc are looking decent so far, at least in terms of AoE and cleave, which we all know Havoc really struggle with. I'm just playing with you, Demon Hunters, you know I love you.
And in today's comment of the day, we have Lisa Parker, and she said,
"Waking up to on cooldown feels better than spending time with the significant other."
Oh, we know how you feel, Lisa. We know how you feel.
No, I'm watching on cooldown. Of course of course I care. Oh, don't you bring my mother into this. You know she would slap your wrist for this one. Right. Now, oh yeah? Oh, the tears, of course. Like, I swear to God, sometimes I have to hand it to you. Oh, you're leaving, right? Oh, you're gonna tell them about this? Sure, like this part, this right here. Not the whole part where I handle your business. Sometimes you're a handful. In other news, the first seasonal affix is official. Prideful is out on the beta to be tested, and tested we did. If you missed one of our previous on cooldown episodes where we talked about it, let me give you the gist. At every 20% trash killed, you spawn a manifestation of Pride, a big-ass red elemental thing that is basically a mini-boss. Besides having a lot of HP and hitting the tank for a lot or a little amount of damage, it has two abilities. First, it debuffs a player with a 4-second effect that shoots lasers in the direction showcased by the animation at the end. At first glance, simply moving a bit out of the group will make it easy for your teammates to just dodge the things. And you can even go out in a way where the missiles fired will not even reach your group at all to damage them. The second ability is a buff on itself that deals AoE damage so far regardless of line of sight. This debuff stacks and ramps up until the manifestation dies. The reason it does this is because once it dies, it gives the group a massive buff for 30% more damage dealt, 60% move speed, and 5% mana regen per second. Ideally, you would like to kill this close to another possibly dangerous pack or a boss, so you can use that buff to get past a big hurdle in the dungeon. But take too long and the AoE damage will eventually burn your healer out and kill the group. This is an example of a very good affix the devs designed. It's a kiss curse mechanic, and I am sorry if this invokes any kind of PTSD from corruptions, but it's not even close. This has a counterplay to it and an incentive to be played right. It's not just a wall to overcome that just slows your dungeon progression. Strategical use can save you time even. The first few tests are inconclusive, the damage scaling is way off, and really the whole +10 we did seem to have badly tuned mechanics where certain spells could one-shot you while others barely scratched you, or it might be just a scaling issue. The reason that's important is that this could spawn when you are already fighting a pack, and involving its mechanics on top of the trash can wipe you, on beta. Because once it's live, we can assume the dungeon mechanics will be properly tuned, plus we will have more info on it and be able to manage it, so we are not surprised when we magically kill 20% of the trash and forget this is supposed to spawn.
As you eagerly await the launch of the Shadowlands to start leveling and get into the meat and potatoes of the expansion, well, you will really get some meat, potatoes, salad, and probably dessert while leveling to max level, because the XP required to get to 60 has been increased by 30%, which you could argue it's indirect response on folks dinging before they finish their Last Covenant story on the beta. And if there is one thing they really want you to do, is get to know your Covenant, get to know the story, reasoning, and the abilities it comes with. It's a fair argument, and the change must have been based on a lot of data coming in, but at a first glance, 30% seems a bit much, and you cannot help but get this weird feeling of artificial increase in time spent by you within the game, similar to what you felt in patch 8.3. Now, don't get me wrong, it's always a blast to go through the leveling process in new expansions and absorb the story and new characters and all the little side stories and plot twists. Granted, the premise and context are good. Warlords of Draenor was a good example for that, in terms of having to follow a linear story done right, leading up to max level conclusions and further narratives being developed within the endgame. BFA was not the same, but it did have cool moments in places like Drusfarm or Nasmir. Sure, there are folks who don't really care for lore and story and they just want to get it over with and start early with the endgame, which is fine also. But at this point, I think both crowds can be affected, as, once again, 30% seems too high and maybe a 15 or 20% could have done the trick. Well, it's still beta. The forums are still open, and so is Blizz to feedback, so let's see if we can lower this increase with proper feedback. Civilized, please. Hell yeah! Another week has passed, another beta client, and...
Man, what a week, man. Jesus.
Wait, we got so many new class updates.
We talked and we covered like the biggest ones, the DK and the Havoc Demon Hunter, but... What is it? Warlock,
rogues as well. There was another one, Shadow Priest. Of course, they addressed a lot of the concerns.
Like everything kind of like what we Yeah, everything that we touched upon in our video regarding Insanity and Void Form and Legacy of the Void, that kind of was addressed the way we kind of hoped it would be.
Yeah, we'll probably do some more updates on our videos regarding these in the future, but I think one of the most important things that happened after we finished the script and recording everything,
as it always is.
Yes, the changes to the affixes in Mythic Plus, which they are a big deal because they're good, man. They're good changes.
Yeah, people have been asking for, especially people that are doing Mythic Plus, have been asking for this for years because they were designed initially with the Legion in mind, and Mythic Plus initially wasn't designed to be something that carries on to the next expansion, right? But it was just way too popular. So things like Sanguine now only lasts 20 seconds instead of a full minute.
Oh
Jesus.
Yeah, that's 100%. Will be a lot easier because you know this happened quite a lot in places with tight corridors where you would get a lot of mobs. Yeah, Waker's Manor is a good example. We get a lot of mobs, they would die and make Sanguine all over the place. It was a bitch.
But tell me how much you love that Grievous though.
Oh yeah, man, Grievous. I play a Discipline Priest mostly, right? And I try to do it in Mythic Plus a lot of the times. And let me tell you, you Discipline Priest know this. On Grievous, it's fucked up because you couldn't handle with it. Resto Druids were the kings when talking about Grievous. But now, Grievous will be able, one stack of Grievous will be able to be like ripped off with one heal. Right, so you can handle if you're gonna spot heal like Shadowman, I don't know, Holy Paladins, they're okay
penance
too.
as well, I don't know.
Penance, what is that considered? Is that considered a
Well,
single?
it's a channeled.
Yeah, it's not a hot.
But it's direct healing, so.
Yeah, it's good nonetheless. Plus, the damage is not a flat amount anymore. It is a flat amount now rather than the percentage of the player's maximum health, which for tanks.
Oh my god, that's so good because a lot of tanks are like kind of required to auto heal. We didn't have anything on necrotic just yet, but the explosive. Now this is weird because the explosive was always kind of an issue because it seemed like they spawned a little bit randomly, but now from the tooltip or from the post that they said, it seems like they will spawn closer to the enemies that actually spawn them, so not just like randomly 20 yards into the room. Remember Temple of Sithralis?
Oh yeah. Well, it actually says that they will spawn slightly further away from the enemies that spawn them, and we don't know what that means yet.
Yeah,
because it could mean that we get them closer, or it could mean that they're even further spread out.
No, I think it's the former because so far it seems like explosive would just spawn like randomly.
Oh yeah, I know. And also, Volcanic, right? Volcanic is now a flat amount as well that scales with the keystone level rather than the player's maximum health. So I don't think Volcanic was that problematic.
No, Volcanic and Bursting were changed about a couple of months ago. Maybe they've just compiled all of the changes, but yeah, Bursting as well being dispellable. If you haven't paid attention to everything that changed, Bursting is now dispellable.
It can be dispellable. Another good thing for priests as well.
Oh my god, I am seeing priests making a comeback, man, because Discipline was actually really good in Season 1 in BFA.
I know, but you know, as things progress further along the expansion, you know, I mean, this priest can still do like 26, 27s,
no problem. They're pushing.
But it will never compare to like a Holy Paladin or Monk or something like that when it comes to these affixes and dealing with them. One cool other thing that they added to Volcanic is like if you get hit by Volcanic, jump into the air.
There were a couple of bugs that I heard people complain about with this one, but you could play a boomkin and just like flap down and skip a lot of shit, or slow fall with mages.
Yeah, slow fall with mages, but you know, fast fall with our Patreons, because you know we have to give our respect, our love, our appreciation to all of you out there who keep on supporting this content that we do here month by month. Flame, what do we do month by month?
Well, month by month.
He knows.
Every month we of course have like class overviews all throughout the week. One news show every Friday. Streams, of course, because you know we stream. And Mocast, man.
Mocast, you know, the podcast that goes beyond the World of Warcraft into the lives and the philosophies and what goes on into the minds of these WoW community figures. You can check that out in the description as well.
We did have a new thing yesterday.
Yeah, I'm probably sure if you didn't know, now you know. You gotta check out our single, Still I Play WoW. It's on all streaming platforms available. You can check the videos in the description. It's pretty exciting times. You're supporting a lot of this content, so thank you.
I got it in my Spotify list.
You better add it too.
Yeah, thank you very much for supporting us, guys. We are definitely putting more shit out, and we do have even bigger plans for the future, so stay tuned. And if you're interested in supporting us a little bit more, dear viewer who are not yet our Patreon, you can check the link down below. Of course, it's not mandatory, but it does help, and we really appreciate it.
And you can see it in the content. I think it's pretty obvious by now. You can see the support in the content. And with that being said, we shall all have a great weekend ahead.
Take care, everybody.
See you next year tomorrow. Streams. Love you.
What he said.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.